Welcome to the Ask Me Anything video for Planet Doug for August 2025. And this video has two parts. In fact, I've already answered all of the questions in long form. I read the whole question fully, and then I gave a long, detailed, tangent-filled, typical Planet Doug reply. So that is later in the video, so you can skip ahead to that, to the long form if you just want to listen to that. But what I wanted to do was go back to the beginning of the video and just quickly go through the questions, like rapid fire, and just give my answers very, very quickly. So this is the short form section. I'll answer all the questions like in one sentence or less, and then later on you get the full Planet Doug experience. So it's up to you if you want to listen to both or just jump ahead to that section. Like I said, has already been recorded. I recorded that yesterday, and then this morning I had this idea. I did it once before where I just went back and answered the questions very quickly, thinking there might be some people out there who just want the answer and don't really need the context. So let's just go through these. Oh, by the way, for this short form, I've also paraphrased their question. So I rewrote the question to make it as short as possible. Armando B writes, will you be going back to Vietnam in May of 2026? Short answer, no. At the moment, I have no plans to return to Vietnam. I'd love to go back to Vietnam, of course, but I have no actual dates or plans at the moment. Daniel B writes, I'm out of questions, but I love your videos. Thank you, Daniel. He didn't have a question there. And yeah, I love getting feedback like that. It inspires me to keep making YouTube videos. So thank you, Daniel. And then Daniel B writes, have you considered adding a buy me a coffee link to your channel? Yes, I've considered it. I even created a buy me a coffee account in the past, and I created the link and I put it into a couple of videos, but I haven't had it in there for a very long time. So I've thought about adding it. I just haven't done it. Habibullah K writes, given a choice, would you prefer to settle down in Canada or Malaysia? And that was a very easy question for me to answer. Malaysia. If I had to choose where to settle down, which country to use as my base, I would pick Malaysia over Canada anytime. And in my long form answer, I explain why. WanderEats writes, what 3 places would you like to see in Malaysia on this visit? Of course, there's tons of places I want to visit, but I picked 3 to answer his question. Highway 185 out of Ipoh, that goes up into the mountains through the Cameron Highlands. Kuala Terengganu, that looks like an amazing city to spend some time in. And the Ipoh Taiping area, because of the history of tin mining and the beautiful scenery there. Heiko Z writes, do you have any plans to return to Mae Sot or anywhere in Thailand? No, I don't have any plans to go back to Mae Sot. I would like to, but I have no reason to go back there. And in terms of going to Thailand, it could happen, but I don't have any definite plans for returning to Thailand. Koo Keng K writes, do you have plans what to do with your body if you drop dead overseas? Yes, my plan basically is just to leave my body there. I've already told family members back in Canada that if I pass away in some foreign land, just leave me there, let them do whatever they do with unclaimed bodies. I don't want my body shipped back to Canada. I don't want a grave site. I don't want a tombstone. I don't need any of that. I think it would all just be very difficult and very expensive. And yeah, it's not important to me. So wherever I die, they can just do whatever they want to do with my body, and I'm fine with that. Self-Reflection writes, will you join the global boycott of Starbucks and McDonald's? And as I explained in the long form answer, I'm just not a boycott kind of guy. So even the specifics of this particular boycott, isn't really relevant to me because just boycotts in general, I tend not to get involved in them. So I don't think I will be joining the boycott of Starbucks and McDonald's. Dominik S writes, can you tell me about the Planet Doug analytics? Percent subscribed, most popular videos, watch all the way, old or young, male or female, local or Canadian. I don't pay a lot of attention to analytics. I don't look at them. I don't do deep dives into them. I don't really like knowing a lot about the analytics because it's too depressing. But I know the answers to these basic ones. In terms of viewers, of like the number of people who view my video, what percentage of them are subscribed to my channel, a very, 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 very low number. But that's common across all of YouTube. Most popular videos, they tend to be travel videos. Like if I'm taking a train somewhere, taking a bus somewhere, if I'm actually moving, those tend to be my most popular videos, which tells me something that I should be doing a lot more moving. Watch all the way, like how many viewers watch all of the video? Again, I think that's a very small number, and the YouTube analytics don't actually tell you that. Are my viewers old or young? They skew older, of course, because I'm older. Male or female, my viewers are very much male, skews heavily to the male demographic. Some female viewers, but not very many. Local or Canadian, and again, my viewers skew towards local people. And in fact, as I talk about at length in the long form answer, Canadians are remarkably uninterested in what I do as a fellow Canadian overseas. Very, very few Canadian viewers or Canadian followers of my travels. Last question from Editor Progressive Academic P6525. Do you have plans to visit countryside areas in Malaysia? And how do you pay for your travel expenses? So yes, I do have plans. In a couple of weeks, I'll be getting on my bicycle and I hope to visit a lot of countryside areas all around Malaysia. And how do I pay for these travels? I pay through savings. So years ago, I was working full-time for an extended period and I saved as much money as I could. And ever since I quit that job, I've been living off savings from that job. And that's what I've done my whole life. I work for a while, quit, go somewhere until my money runs out, and then I have to go back to work again. So basically, yeah, YouTube does not pay for my lifestyle that I have as I'm traveling. I'm supporting myself through savings. That's basically what I do. So those are the short form answers, and now the long form. Good morning and welcome to the Planet Doug Ask Me Anything video for August 2025. And I'm recording this AMA video in a new and somewhat unusual location. You might be able to tell because I might be beautifully lit right now. And that's because in an unusual twist, my hotel room has a big window off to my right over here. I'm usually in a low budget room with no windows at all, and it's quite dim and dark. But I'm living in the lap of luxury at the O Crossroads Hotel in Chow Kit, Kuala Lumpur. That's where I'm recording this. And yeah, I ended up with a very nice room here. It's what they call a Queen Deluxe. Comes with a mini fridge and a kettle and a big beautiful window. Very nice layout. So I'm in a very comfortable setting for my August Ask Me Anything video with a lot of light coming in. Gloomy day out there in Kuala Lumpur, gray skies, but still lots of light coming in. So I have some questions for the Ask Me Anything video. First question is not really a question, maybe it's an implied question from Armando B. He writes, "You're going back to Vietnam next May. I'm going for 15 days. I think what he meant was, are you going to Vietnam next May? Because I'm going to be there for 15 days. So he's basically telling me he's going to Vietnam on a trip, I guess May 2026, and for 15 days. So he's letting me know, and like, are you going to be there? If so, maybe we can meet up. So at this point, I don't have any plans to be in Vietnam in May. I have no clue whatsoever where I'll be in May. Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle to even figure out where I'm going to be next week sometimes. But yeah, I'd love to go back to Vietnam. I'm still thinking about the time that I spent there. I had such a good time in Vietnam. I could easily go back. Second question is also not a question, but I will read it anyway. From Daniel Boucher. He says, I have to admit, I'm out of questions at this point. I've watched all your videos and you've already answered everything I was wondering about. Great content and very informative. Keep up the amazing work. So yeah, thank you very much, Daniel, for that encouragement and the compliment. Really helps a lot to get that kind of feedback, get the YouTube engines going again, and get excited about what I'm doing on Planet Doug. So yeah, glad you're enjoying the videos. And I was thinking when I read his comment, more a comment than a question, if someone watches a lot of my videos or looks at my social media, they probably know a lot about me, and probably a lot more than they might know about other YouTubers, because I tend to be quite open about everything. Like even opening up this video, I'm telling you I'm at the Oak Crossroads Hotel in Chow Kit, and I don't really have the same privacy and security concerns that a lot of people have. So I'm very open about everything. You want to know my name and where I am and what I'm doing and where I'm staying and how I'm feeling about things. I just talk about everything. So if you've been paying attention to my videos, you probably know a lot about me. So Daniel's like, I think I know Doug pretty well by this point. He talks a lot and he says a lot of things about himself. So yeah. But he does have a question later on. An actual question here. The next one, actually. So this is another question from Daniel Boucher. He writes, I really enjoy your channel and the content you create. I was wondering if you've ever considered adding a buy me a coffee link like some other vloggers do. It could be a simple way for your viewers to support your work and help you generate a bit more revenue alongside YouTube. Thanks for all the effort you put into your videos. I always look forward to the next one. Again, thank you very much, Daniel, for the kind words, those encouraging words. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee link. Like over the years that I've had this YouTube channel, I've looked into and experimented with everything. So I already have a Buy Me a Coffee link for Planet Doug that I set up probably a couple of years ago. Because I find with technology now, I can't figure out how anything works without actually doing it. So like if I was curious about Buy Me a Coffee because I saw a lot of people using it, and I thought, what's that all about? But if I go to their website and I read all the guidelines and everything and I check into it, by the end of all that, I still have no idea how it actually works. So the only way for me to learn how it works is to set it up. So I went through the whole process and opened an account and did everything you needed to do to create a Buy Me a Coffee account for Planet Doug. So I do have it. And back in those days, I probably put it into a couple of video descriptions, just sort of as an experiment. But it's true, I don't have that in my video description anymore. Most of my effort goes into Patreon. And in my video description, I do have several ways that people can support Planet Doug if they wish. Much appreciated, by the way, to everyone who does so. I have a Planet Doug PayPal link and a Planet Doug Touch and Go link, the eWallet that's based here in Malaysia. It has like a DuitNow system, and people can send money directly into my Touch and Go account. And I have the Patreon is there as well. And yeah, huge thanks, I should say, to everyone who has sent me money through PayPal, sent me support through PayPal and Touch and Go, and who have joined the Planet Doug Patreon. Without that support, to be honest, I don't think Planet Doug would exist now at all in the way it does. That support has been absolutely necessary. And yeah, Touch and Go is an amazing thing. People who have sent me money through Touch and Go, thank you very much. And there's one person in particular who is a regular supporter of what I'm doing through Touch and Go, and I want to send a personal thanks out to you, because again, no exaggeration, that money keeps my life going. I use Touch and Go for everything here in Malaysia. And I remember trying to use Touch and Go a couple of years ago when I was in Indonesia, but it wouldn't work. It said that since your account is a foreign-based account, you can't use it internationally. Like I scanned the code in Medan, thinking I could use Malaysian Touch and Go, but it wouldn't work for me. But I think now it does work. It's opening up in many more countries, and even as a foreigner, I'm allowed to use Touch and Go outside of Malaysia. So if there is money in my Touch and Go account, I could use it in Indonesia, in Japan, in Thailand. I think there's a whole variety of countries that it has expanded to, and now foreigners can use the international services as well. It's becoming a world-based system. And I love Touch and Go. I use it all the time for all of my daily expenses, for going out and having a meal and buying water and riding the MRT system. Pretty much everything I do in Kuala Lumpur gets funneled through Touch and Go, and Planet Doug supporters have basically been very generous, and have kept Planet Doug afloat through the Touch and Go system, which has been amazing. So getting back to the question about buy me a coffee, suggesting that I put it in, I understand the idea, because just like how everybody in the world has a preferred social messaging app, like some people like WhatsApp, some people like Facebook Messenger, some people like Line. Every country has a different system that the people there prefer. So as a YouTuber, you end up having all of them. I communicate with some people on WhatsApp, some people on Facebook Messenger. I used to have a bunch of people I communicated with online, but that has kind of fallen by the wayside. And then when it comes to payment systems or donating money, people have preferences too. And I can understand that because I have the Planet Doug Patreon, and I can see someone saying, oh yeah, I'd like to support Planet Doug on Patreon. And then you go over there and it's like, oh, to do that, I have to open a Patreon account, and then that's like a barrier. Like, I don't want to mess around. I have enough accounts in my life, and I don't need another one, so they won't do it. But then if you have like a Touch and Go link, someone in Malaysia, that's very convenient for them. It's like, oh, I can use Touch and Go to support Planet Doug, and they use that, or PayPal, a more international thing. So everybody has a preferred some method that they like better than others. So maybe adding buy me a coffee to the list would be a good thing, because some other people are familiar with buy me a coffee, but they're not familiar with Touch and Go or PayPal or Patreon. They're like, oh, Planet Doug has buy me a coffee. Great, I can use that. So from that point of view, it kind of makes sense to have all of them. But I did have a sense of, well, like, where do you draw the line as a YouTuber? Maybe it gets to the point where there's just too much. And I can see somebody looking at the video description is like, dude, how many are you going to add to the list? And there's also YouTube channel memberships. That's the other one that people have said to me, like, well, why don't you turn on memberships? Every day I get an email from YouTube, it seems, telling me, how come you haven't turned on memberships for your channel? You should do it, please do it. And they're encouraging me, a lot of people encourage me. But then again, I've got Patreon, and then it kind of competes directly with YouTube memberships. And having both of them in my life might make my brain explode. It's hard enough just doing YouTube by itself. My brain can barely handle it. And then you have something like Patreon. It's a complicated world I live in with social media. And then now memberships on YouTube, it's like, oh, you basically would have to line it up with Patreon and somehow make them work together so that they're not overlapping and they're not causing trouble. Somebody joins this, but they're missing out because that is over on Patreon. But then someone on Patreon is missing out because I posted something to memberships. So they have to be the same so that people don't feel like they're missing out. And that's a lot of work to line these things up. So those are some of my thoughts about buy me a coffee and things like that. And I could definitely add a buy me a coffee link to the video descriptions. As I said, I've already set it up. I have an account. It would just be like a copy and paste operation. And if it seems like a good idea to people out there for me to do it, yeah, I'll definitely do it. Just let me know. Next question is from Habibullah K. Hi, Doug. If you have given two opportunities as follows, which one will you choose and why? 1, full-time job of your liking in Canada with good salary and benefits. Or 2, 10-year Malaysia, my second home visa, but no work allowed. It's a bit of a tough question to answer because they're not quite the same. Like if I'm in Canada with a full-time job, I mean, that implies that I need money. I need an income, right? That's why I'm working. But the other option, number 2, 10-year Malaysia, my second home visa, but no work allowed, that's sort of implying I just have enough money to support myself. I don't need to work. So from those two options, assuming option 2, I actually have funds to live a normal life, but I don't have to work in an office at a full-time job, well, then I would choose that, of course, as opposed to the full-time job, because it would give me more freedom to travel. I assume with the Malaysia, my second home visa, I'm allowed to leave the country. So the question is basically, where would you prefer to be based? Would you prefer to be based in Canada or based in Malaysia? And for me, that's a very easy question. If that's the intention of the question, Malaysia. I would choose to be based in Malaysia. I wouldn't even have to think about it. Yeah, I love it here. I like life in Asia. I like my life overseas. Canada is a great place to live, depending on what you're looking for. But what I'm looking for, what I enjoy in a normal day, it's not there in Canada. I mean, if you were wealthy, living in Canada and you had all the money you needed, I mean, you can live an amazing life, but then you're talking about maybe what most people think of as an amazing life, like a nice house, nice car, vacations at the beautiful beach resorts in Jamaica. Like, these are the perks of being wealthy. But I don't have any interest in any of those things. I prefer the life I'm living, rough and tumble, a little bit more on the edge, not quite as comfortable, like my trips over to Sumatra. That's kind of how I would prefer to live. Even if I were wealthy, my lifestyle wouldn't change. I wouldn't have a car. I wouldn't own a house anyway, even if I could. So anyway, if I had to choose life in Canada, life in Malaysia, I'm done. Easy. Life in Malaysia. I would base myself out of Malaysia or any country in Southeast Asia. But Malaysia, I could be quite happy living here, assuming I can make trips to other nearby countries, of course. But so I guess that's kind of my answer to the question. It depends on money, right? The way the question is written, it sounds like for option 2, in living in Malaysia, I don't have to worry about money. But in Canada, I'm working at a full-time job. So the logic of the question, I'm not quite sure I've got it straight in my head, but I think I get the spirit of the question, which is, what would you prefer, a life in Canada or a life in Malaysia? I would choose Malaysia. I mean, I made that choice myself years ago. I left Canada in 1991 permanently. I mean, before 91, I went on trips outside of Canada, but in 91, looking at the flow of my life, everything changed in 1991. That's when I flew to South Korea, and at that time, I had no money. I was terribly in debt, in fact, and I had no job waiting for me in Korea, and I knew no one in Korea. But I set off on this adventure because people told me I could get a job in South Korea teaching English, and I thought, oh, really? That sounds cool. So I flew to South Korea in 1991, and my life has been pretty much based on this traveling, working, then working lifestyle, generally always overseas. So in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia, or Asia in general. So, yeah. So I kind of chose to live outside of Canada already, and because I just prefer, when people ask me about it, I basically give them the same answer, that if I were based in Canada living there, you really have to work hard to have an adventure, because everything is so controlled, where you go to work every morning, you commute to work, and you're in the subway or driving your car, and then you get there and you go work, and then you go home again. And then to have exciting things happen, you've got to plan ahead. You've got to plan for the weekend, make reservations and make plans and get organized. Then you've got two days to go have an adventure, come back and go back to work. Here in Chow Kit in Malaysia, you don't have to look for adventure. Adventure finds you. Like right now, if I wanted to pop outside to grab a snack, I go out onto the street. There's stuff happening everywhere, right? In Canada, everything happens behind closed doors. The streets are empty. You have to, there's just buildings everywhere. The streets there's nothing going on the streets. But of course, in Asia, you walk around Kuala Lumpur, I mean, there's stuff happening all over the place. Everything, market stalls and food stalls and manufacturing, and everything is going on. Doors are open. Everything, there's so much going on all around you. So every 24-hour day is filled with adventures, because there's so much happening everywhere. And then in Canada, it's pretty quiet, pretty laid back. On sometimes when I've gone back to Canada, I remember one time in particular, I flew into Toronto. Then I guess it was a weekend, a Sunday, and a friend of mine had an apartment like up on the 20th floor of an apartment building, and I stayed with him for a couple of nights. So I landed and I was at his apartment. I woke up on Sunday morning and I could look out the window, and you'd swear there had been a zombie apocalypse. Like I had just come from Asia, where there was just chaos everywhere. The streets were never quiet. There's people and traffic and noise and excitement around you all the time. And then I looked out my friend's 20th floor window down on the streets of Toronto, and they were empty. Nothing. No cars, no people, no sound. It was just like a deserted city at that time in the morning, Sunday morning. And that's kind of my mental image of Canada, just an empty place where everything is happening. There's a lot going on in Canada, but it's not out in the open. Like you even think about deliveries. I mean, in a way, it can be a little bit of an annoyance. A lot of these things that I really like about Southeast Asia can be really kind of annoying, because you're trying to get into the store, like even a 7-Eleven, you want to go grab a carton of milk or something, and the delivery truck pulls right up to the front door of the 7-Eleven, blocks the entrance. Customers can't even get in and out, because that's how they make deliveries, through the front door. I saw that all over Sumatra. Every time you try to go into a place, the front entrance, they're carrying boxes in and out. There's people shouting and chaos. In Canada, of course, everything goes through the back door. There's a back entrance. There's a warehouse. And like legally, I think because of insurance and liability reasons in Canada, you wouldn't be allowed to make deliveries through the front door, because that poses a risk. They're piling up boxes everywhere. You've got a truck with a big platform that is hydraulic going up and down. You can't have customers like sucking in their gut and trying to squeeze by the delivery truck. You just can't do that in Canada. The laws wouldn't allow it. But of course in Sumatra and in Malaysia, it's like, yeah, just hop up on the sidewalk with your delivery truck and go up to the front door and we'll unload, right? But I like that. I like that sense of excitement, of chaos, of things happening. You go to Canada, you'll never see deliveries, trucks pulling up, goods being unloaded, because that's all happening around the back, at the back entrance, where you never see anything. Factories too, like all the stuff in Canada that gets made. I mean, there's manufacturing and factories and stuff going on everywhere, but it's all inside a giant building with a fence around the complex and security guards. But here, of course, in Southeast Asia, everywhere you go, somebody's hammering and angle grinding and welding and building, and yeah, there's stuff just going on everywhere. So I like that atmosphere. Maybe, again, I've joked in the past that it's because I'm lazy. in Canada to have a good life and an interesting, exciting life, you got to work really hard and you have to plan. Here, you just have to exist. Excitement and adventure finds you whether you want it or not. And that's what I like about the atmosphere in other countries around the world. Yeah. It's better for a lazy person in a way, or someone who doesn't like to plan too much. Because, yeah, adventure finds you. In Canada, you have to go create your own adventure. You really have to plan for it. So, I would choose Malaysia over Canada. Next question, WanderEats asks, now that you are back in Malaysia with a fresh 90 days visa, I understand you want to cycle south, but which 3 specific locations or landmarks that you want to visit during this cycling trip of yours and why? So, of course, things kind of spun out of control as soon as I landed. My original idea, I just put a post on Patreon and on YouTube talking about this. What I was going to do when I returned from Sumatra, I just wanted to, because I had my bike with me in Sumatra and I brought my bicycle back, I was just going to hit the ground running or cycling and just start a cycling tour around Malaysia. But then I had to spend a few days in Port Dickson editing videos from Sumatra, and that quickly took a lot more time than expected. It took 10 days to just get caught up on the video editing. And then I realized my passport was full and I had to deal with it. So I had to renew my passport. And then I came to Kuala Lumpur to take care of that. And then we had the Merdeka holidays, so I decided to stay for that. And a friend of mine and Planet Doug supporters contacted me. They're coming to Malaysia and they're going on a car tour, maybe a week-long trip around Malaysia by car, and they invited me to go with them, hop in the back seat and just go off onto this adventure with them. So yeah, very, very wonderful offer. And I said, yeah, I'm very interested in that. So my departure date for my cycling trip got delayed and delayed and delayed. In fact, I just got back from Port Dickson yesterday because I had to go down there to deal with my bicycle again and move it to a secure location because I'm not going to be there just yet. I'm not going to get back for another couple of weeks. So, but I still plan on doing it. And just off the top of my head, thinking about places around Malaysia, I mean, there's so many that I haven't seen. Though I should explain, people ask me all the time about, have you been here? Have you been here in Malaysia? And actually, I've been everywhere, but not as a YouTuber. I mean, I came to Malaysia, I don't know, 2 or 3 decades ago. I traveled through Malaysia and just as a backpacker back in those days, and I went to all these places. So I've already been to Ipoh and Taiping, the East Coast. I've been at Johor Bahru. I've been to all of these places. I've been to Malacca. So I have been everywhere in Malaysia, but that was way before I was a YouTuber. And it was so long ago, I don't even remember those trips. So I can easily set off on a bike tour and everything will feel brand new and fresh. I won't remember any of it. It'll all be brand new to me. But he's asking for 3 places, and there's actually one spot. There's Highway 185. Every time I look at Google Maps, it's sort of, if you look at, I think, Ipoh, and then the Cameron Highlands, there's a road that leaves from Ipoh that goes up into the mountains, and it loops around through the Cameron Highlands and then back again. And there's more of 185 on the other side of the mountains as well. But when you zoom in on satellite view, you can see that it's just one of those amazing, crinkly, winding. The more you zoom in, the more windy it becomes, like do. And I love those roads for cycling. So as soon as I saw that road, I made a note, gotta cycle on that road. And there are a few roads like that all around the central mountain range of Malaysia. But I'm picking that one just as an example. Like Highway 185 is on my list. I really want to cycle that loop out of Ipoh, or maybe coming from the East Coast to Ipoh or something like that, coming over the mountains and then cycling down that windy 185 road. So that's something that jumps into my mind. The city, or the whole region, but the city in particular, Kuala Terengganu, looks amazing. I may not have even been there in the past, but I really look forward to seeing that city. Like when you zoom in on Google Maps again, I mean, it looks like an amazing place, and it has this river delta, very complex set of river channels emptying out into the ocean. And there's an islands in the river, and I love any place that has all that coastline. So it's got, you know, the main coastline of Malaysia, but then it's got all the river shore and then the islands in the rivers. It just looks like an amazing city to explore and hang out in. So that would be number 2 for me. Yeah, Kuala Terengganu. And then what I've already mentioned, actually, the Ipoh Taiping area. I'm interested in that area for a lot of reasons. The history of it, the tin mining, and then the rubber plantations that were there. You go way back into Malaysian history now in the Taiping, Ipoh area, and I'm very interested in that kind of thing, the industrial origins of the tin mining and things. And then, of course, the scenery around there, all of the limestone cliffs, the karst, very famous for that, and then all the good food. Everyone talks about all the great food in Ipoh. YouTubers go there and go on a food tour. But I hope to expand my experience beyond the food. And then there's like an old, one of the only tin mining barges still in existence in Malaysia is there, and you can go look at it as kind of as a visitor, and I hope walk around on the barge, one of those massive tin mining barges. I've never seen one in real life, I don't think, so I'm interested in that. So there you have it. My 3 choices for right now. And of course, I'm interested in Malacca, the history, and all these sorts of things. Johor Bahru, I'm interested in. I find border towns fascinating, and Johor Bahru, right on the border with Singapore, and it looks like a very interesting city. But so I could go on with more, but I'll stop there. Heiko Z, or Heiko Z, he writes, Doug, do you plan to go back to Mesot in Thailand or somewhere else in Thailand? Would love to see some Planet Doug vlogs from Thailand without COVID restrictions, like 5 years before. All the best from Germany, Heiko. I don't have any plans to go to Mesot. I mean, if I had the opportunity, of course, it would be great fun. I spent a lot of time there. I'm very fond of that little town, but I have no particular reason to go back there. Again, you know, with unlimited funds and unlimited time, I would go everywhere. It's like, oh yeah, I'll hop on a plane, fly to Mesot this weekend, check the place out. But trips like that are not possible for like a low budget style traveler. You have to make choices about where to go and how to spend your time, let alone the money you have. So if I had to make a choice, I could go somewhere. I'm going to choose somewhere new, I guess. I wouldn't go back to Mesot in particular. I mean, it would certainly be interesting because Mesot has changed. I mean, it changed back then. I crossed over into Mesot the first time from Myanmar, and it was just on a normal backpacking trip. And my plan was to cross the border, get a new visa for Myanmar, and then go back into Myanmar. That's the only reason I went to Mesot originally. But as soon as I crossed the border and I was in Mesot, that's when the pandemic hit, and boom, the border closed behind me. And it was not possible to go back to Myanmar. So that completely changed the nature of the town. And now, of course, since then we've had the coup in Myanmar. So now we have all the fighting going on, especially in the border areas that the military government has lost control out of the border areas of the country. So there's fighting going on there. Who knows who's in charge of the area in Myanmar? Because Mesot is a border town. It sits right on the border with Myanmar. There's a river separating the two countries. And now there's fighting going on there. Now we have all the scam centers that are operating in Myanmar that seem to be growing and getting out of control. So going back to Mesot would probably be very interesting from that point of view, like just to go to the river and like what does the border look like now? Who's allowed to cross the border? I think it's closed to all foreigners, of course, but maybe the Burmese and Thai people are allowed to cross that border now back and forth, but I don't know. So it would be interesting to go back and see what has changed in Mesot. That would be fascinating. So I wouldn't say no to a return visit, but given a choice, I guess I would go somewhere new. And I guess that's the same thing for Thailand overall. I don't have specific plans to go back to Thailand. Given the opportunity, of course I would, and I would enjoy it. But again, if I had the time and money to go somewhere, it kind of makes sense that you would choose to go somewhere new if you could. Though I'm not a good example of that because I keep ending up back in Sumatra and Malaysia. But yeah, so I don't have any plans to head to Thailand right now. It could happen, never say never, but no definite plans right now. Koo Keng K asks an interesting question. He writes, "You live a nomadic life and sounds like you're not returning to Canada soon. Do you have plans what to do with your body if you drop dead somewhere?" Ken. I don't have I do have plans, I suppose. I've thought about this, and I've actually talked to family members back in Canada about this because it's easily a possibility. It could have happened at any time. Could have happened when I was in Sumatra, when I was cycling on that national highway. At any minute, one of those trucks could have hit me and my life is over. I'd be dead. And I hate being a bother. I hate being trouble to people. So I've spoken to family members in Canada and I've told them my feelings on the matter. Like, if you get a phone call someday as my emergency contact and they say, "Oh, Douglas Niedhuis was killed in a traffic accident, what would you like us to do with his body?" I told my family members, just leave me there. Like, don't worry about it. Just tell them, do whatever it is you do with unclaimed bodies. I assume cremation, just add it to the fire and cremate my body and just do whatever it is you do. I basically told my family members, like, whatever you do, don't go to the expense of and the hassle of trying to ship my body back to Canada for burial. I mean, that would be hugely expensive, and I have no interest in a grave site. I never have had, so I don't need a grave site. I don't need a tombstone marking where my body rests. So wherever I die, anywhere in the world, just leave me there and hand me over to the local authorities for, I guess, what you would call a pauper's burial. Whatever you do with people who have no money, just take that body and, into the fire it goes. And I'm perfectly fine with that, perfectly happy. I prefer that. Like, as I said, I don't want people in Canada having to deal with the consequences of my life choices, right? I chose to be doing what I'm doing, and if one of those consequences is I die in Malaysia or I die in Vietnam, get hit by a truck, that was my choice, and I'm perfectly fine with the consequences of that choice. Just leave me there. I'm happier there anyway. Just let my body be there and let them do whatever it is they do with it. And don't spend any money or any time trying to get me back to Canada or anything like that. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on that. Self-reflection asks, "Doug, will you join the global boycott of Starbucks and McDonald's?" Yeah, in general, I'm not a boycott person. I guess whenever I think about one of the big issues in the world where people want to make their opinions known and have an influence on something, I tend not to really get involved. Like in my lifetime, I remember when I was in university, South Africa was the big issue, apartheid, and there were boycotts going on of any company that had anything to do with any kind of investment in South Africa, the fight against apartheid, and universities were being challenged by all the students, because a lot of universities, you wouldn't think about it, but they have a lot of cash, and they're almost like corporations, they're businesses, and all the universities had investments in South Africa. Did I say South Korea? In South Africa. And yeah, there were demonstrations and boycott this and boycott them and boycott them. But for me, it's a little bit of a difficult road to go down. I was chatting about this with a friend of mine the other day, that if you start thinking about products and companies, who wouldn't you boycott? Like, you could argue that every single corporation or company in the world is doing something bad somewhere. So you'd have to boycott everybody. And then, I mean, I'm answering these questions using a GoPro and a smartphone and the internet and all, who knows, like everything that's inside the smartphone, like the lithium battery. I mean, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to these stories, but you do see headlines about lithium mining here is destroying the rainforest here and it's ruining this. Like, every single product that I use all day long, every day, you could probably tell me something evil that corporation is doing, and you should boycott them because they're hurting the environment, they're involved in a war where people are getting killed, on and on and on. And again, yeah, I'm just not a boycotting kind of person, because the issues involved tend to be a lot more complicated than the boycott would suggest. I mean, a boycott kind of implies good and evil. Here's good, here's evil, and this company did this evil thing, boycott them. But then as soon as you dive into the fine print, it's like, what exactly did that corporation do that was so terrible? And then you find out it's very, very nuanced. And they ended up in the firing line more by chance than anything else. Like, there was like a whatever they did blew up in the media and then kind of got misinterpreted and misunderstood and blown out of proportion, and then the boycott starts and it just has a life of its own. So yeah, boycotts, I guess, in my entire lifetime, right from the day I was born until today, there's always something horrible, terrible, evil going on somewhere that somebody's telling me about and telling me I gotta boycott them because they did this. And it's just exhausting. Again, where do you draw the line? So basically, it's pretty hard to get me excited about the latest boycott of a country or a person or a place or a company based on something, a current event going on. So yeah, I'm not really much of a boycotting person, I guess. Dominik S writes, maybe a bit of a behind-the-scenes question. I always find it interesting when people with a YouTube channel talk a bit about the statistics they see about their audience. How many % of our viewers have a subscription? Which videos are very popular? How many people watch all the way? And then don't put CC like I usually don't, because I usually watch on my TV and can't comment all that easily. Stuff like that. Are your fans old or young, male or female, local people in the countries you show, or virtual tourists? Yeah, I guess there's two ways I can answer, two answers I can give to that question. One, I'll start there, is I don't know much about my analytics because I don't pay any attention to them. And I do that for a bunch of reasons. One, I just don't have the time. I'm so busy, I'm like, diving into the analytics. Man, the analytics you get from YouTube are intense. They crunch the numbers to a level that is astonishing. They fine tune it and parse it so you can know every little. There's statistics about everything. You know, the demographics of your audience, what time of the day people click on your videos, how long they watch them, when they stop watching them. Male, female, nationalities, ages. I mean, there are statistics in there I didn't even know existed. I mean, there's so much analytical information in bar charts, graph charts, numbers, analysis. It's overwhelming. So for that reason, I don't get into it. It's just too much. It's like, I can barely clip together a little video on my editing program and upload it and have mobile data and get an internet connection. I'm exhausted just doing that. Like, whatever's going on in the analytics, I just don't have the time or the energy to worry about it. And connected to that, I'm a little bit reluctant to dive into the analytics because it makes sense. Because, if you look at a YouTube channel as a business, it's something you do because you want to make money. So it makes sense that, well, you should find out what your consumers want, and then do marketing. And you're running a business, you're creating a product. People buy it with their time. Like, people don't pay for my videos, but they pay with their time. So they're making a choice to spend their time, and you, as a YouTuber, you should find out why they made or didn't make that choice. They are your customers, and yeah, you should look into the numbers and give the customers what they want. But when you do that, now you're thinking about what you're doing as a product you're trying to sell, rather than as a very personal thing. Like, for me, the videos I make are a very personal project. I've talked about this before, that before I became a YouTuber, I do exactly the same thing that I do now. My life hasn't changed at all, except, like, my whole life I record everything. I've been a long time journal keeper. I go out for the day. Every morning I wake up, and the first thing I do is make a cup of coffee, and I write a long journal entry about what I did yesterday. I take pictures of everything. This is back in the days when I was, just a typical backpacker, or living overseas teaching English, or living in Canada. Whatever I was doing, I'm writing these 50-page letters to friends of mine, detailing everything going on in my life, every thought, every experience. And those letters became my journals, because I would write like a 50-page letter, no exaggeration, and then I would make 2 copies of it. One copy I fold up in an envelope and I mail it to my friend, and the second copy I clip it into a container, and then it becomes my journal. So I'm a long time documentarian at a very personal level. Everything I think about, everything I do, I write it down, I take pictures, I record audio, I just record. So I do this anyway. And then YouTube came into existence, and I started to see people posting YouTube videos about their travels, and I had a website where I was writing about my trips and things like that, but nobody ever went to the website. Nobody cared about anything I was writing. And then I started to see all this reaction to travel videos, and I thought, let me dip my toe in the water. And I started in a very amateurish way. I guess I'm still amateurish, but it was even more amateurish back then, just posting little video clips on YouTube. And I really enjoyed it. It's a new technology, it's a new project, something new to do, and people, not huge numbers of people, but people were watching my videos and they were contacting me. I was meeting new people through the YouTube channel. It became the center of my social life. I really, really enjoy it. So it is an expression of my life, basically, my personality, everything I'm thinking about. I basically took my written journal and turned it into a video. So rather than living my life 24 hours and then writing about it the next morning, I record my life in real time and then post the video. So the video is really a journal of my life. That's how I've been approaching YouTube. But when you get into the analytics will tell me very clearly, I'm sure, your videos are not popular because they're too long, they're too personal, they're about your life, nobody cares. You don't go to anywhere that anybody's interested in, because I just like to go to normal areas. Like, I'm not making a deliberate choice to go to all the big tourist attractions, the recognizable names. It's basically an expression of my life. And then the YouTube analytics will tell me that all of that is wrong. You should do this. If you want views, you've got to go here. You've got to go to the fancy restaurant. Like, if you look at YouTube travel videos, people who stay in 5-star resorts, their videos get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views, because the average person is interested in a luxury vacation. They're not interested in the $5 a night slum room that I stayed in Sumatra. That's not a dream that people have. So basically, the YouTube analytics will tell me that everything I'm doing is wrong and you should live a different life. And then if you take that far enough, it's pretty clear that, travel videos are dumb to make to start with. They're never going to be popular. If all you want to do is have more people watch your videos, more people click on your videos, like some of the obvious things are, well, just have a really beautiful girlfriend traveling with you all the time, and make sure you go to a lot of waterfalls and have her in a bikini and put her on the thumbnail of your video. It's a no-brainer. Everybody's going to be clicking on your video because of the beautiful girl in a bikini in your thumbnail. Or there are some cyclists out there who adopt a stray, like they'll see a starving kitten at the side of the road, and they actually adopt the kitten and put it in a basket on their bike, and it becomes their travel companion, and their channel just blows up because everybody loves cute kittens. I mean, everybody loves beautiful women, everybody loves cute kittens. And so, I mean, there's obvious things you need to do to get people interested in your video. But almost all of those things, of course, would be, in my perspective, in my life, would be fake. They would be contrived. They wouldn't be genuine. They wouldn't be real. And it feels like diving into the analytics and taking them seriously and using them as guidance will push you towards fake content, where the video title for my last Sumatra video, whatever, I almost died 100 times. Because I rode my bike down the highway, and 100 trucks nearly hit me, and any one of them would have killed me. But, the clickbait, all that kind of stuff, and the analytics pushes you in that direction, where I think you would very quickly come to the conclusion that, well, you should stop making videos about your daily life and start making videos about the newest Avengers movie. Because more people are interested in the newest Avengers movie than in what you're doing today. Or like pick a topic that people actually like. Like more people are interested in the NBA in the United States. So like I guess what I'm trying to get at is if all you want is a successful money-making YouTube channel with lots of views, well, start making videos about basketball, soccer. Because movies, that's what most people are interested in. Just making videos about your daily life as a low-budget traveler, well, you're Sisyphus now. You're pushing that boulder uphill, and it's a hopeless cause. It's not going to work. And the analytics will tell you that, and that's kind of depressing. So anyway, that was a very long tangent explaining why I don't know anything about my analytics. I don't look at them. I don't pay attention to them. But occasionally I've glanced at them because I know other YouTubers who pay a lot of attention to their analytics. They're wiser than I am. And they'll ask me, like they'll say, oh, my audience is this percentage male, this percentage female. What about you? And when they ask me, then I go into my analytics to answer their question. So I know a little bit about it in terms of what Dominik was asking me. So are my fans old or young? For the most part, they're older. Makes sense. I'm an older person. I do have younger viewers, but for the most part, my viewers skew older. And that kind of gets into the analytics too, because older viewers, when they think about a country like Thailand or Malaysia, they're probably thinking about which is the best country to retire in. How much does a condo cost there? How nice are the condos with a swimming pool? You see a lot of YouTube channels that focus on advice and information for retirees. And people my age group in Canada and the United States, they're retirees and they're looking for a place to retire. They're not out here looking for a place to hike up a hillside and look at somebody picking peppers on the field, which is what I did in Sumatra. So, But anyway, my viewers skew older, obviously. Male or female, very much male. My viewers skew heavily to the male demographic, not female. I do not appeal to the females of the world. Whatever, the things I talk about, the things I do. Definitely male. Local people in the countries or virtual tourists, this is an interesting one for me. It tends to be local, like the majority are local people from the countries that I'm visiting Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, Bangladesh, the Philippines. Well, I wasn't a YouTuber in the Philippines, but yeah, they tend to be local people. And this has been a bit of a bee in my bonnet, because at the very beginning, when I first set up a website, I called it The Cycling Canadian, because I was leaving Taiwan and I took my bicycle with me to the Philippines, and I was going to ride my bike through the Philippines, and I created this website called The Cycling Canadian. And I thought Canadians by the thousands would thunder to my website. It was like, wow, there's a Canadian traveling around the Philippines having all the, let's find out what this Canadian is doing. That's what I thought would happen. But Canadians, for the most part, no, they never showed up. So I had a website, and then my YouTube channel, I named it after the website. I called it The Cycling Canadian, because I was cycling at the time. And I honestly thought, you know, when you do all the research into YouTube as well, they tell you to look for a niche. And then one of the things was, well, appeal to people from your own country. Fellow Canadians will be interested in what you are doing, another Canadian overseas. And that made perfect sense to me, so I kept Canadian in the title. And then again, back in those days, when you got a URL on like a website name, everything good was taken. So everything you typed in, oh, I want a website called travel, obviously it's going to cost $100,000 to get that domain name, and it's already taken anyway. So you would spend days using these domain name generators back in those days. You type in a name to see whether it's taken or not, and everything good was already taken. So I was just sitting there typing, and I put a whole range of words in, just as a like, and then there's these websites that would put the words together in different ways to find you a domain name that was still available. And at one point I just typed in cycling Canadian, this, that, and it said, oh, The Cycling Canadian is available. And I was like, oh, The Cycling Canadian. I could think of a lot of reasons why that's not a good name. It's too long. It has the in it. The Cycling Canadian. But I mean, it had a bit of a ring to it. And I thought, well, I might as well snag it while it's available. So I just bought it. I said, oh, that one's available. I just clicked on it. Said, okay, I'll reserve that one. I own it now. And it ended up being the name of my website. There's Nothing Better came up. And then it became the name of my YouTube channel. And but anyway, I'm telling that story because, as I said, I thought my audience would be largely Canadians, and I was thinking in that way, but that has not turned out to be the truth. In fact, I have far more viewers from the United States, from Europe, and from Australia. They're much larger in my viewers numbers than Canadians. For some reason, Canadians as a whole just are not interested in what other Canadians are doing. Maybe it's that whole Canadian self-effacing thing. Like we don't think Canadians are that awesome. Like, why would we follow a Canadian? And they just don't. So anyway, my viewers tend to be local people, and then Americans, Europeans, Australians. Not so much from Canada, which is odd. And yeah, old or young, old. Male or female, male. Local people or people from my home country, definitely local. And then beyond that, how many percent of my viewers are subscribed? I don't know that number. I didn't look it up. And I'm assuming it's a low number. Most YouTubers talk about that their video might have 50,000 views, but like only 1,000 of those views came from subscribers. So the vast majority, this is true across all of YouTube, the vast majority of people are not subscribed to the channels where they watch the videos. The subscriber viewership as a percentage is far lower, and it's the same for my channel as well. How many people watch all the way? That's a number that I never really look at, because it's hard enough to feel inspired to make YouTube videos. So I don't want to know, right? So if I spend 2 days working on a video and I finally post it, and then if I go to the analytics, it's just too depressing. So I don't want to know the numbers, because they would just depress me, and I would lose all of my energy for YouTube. So if I saw the actual number of how many people clicked on my video, watched for 10 seconds, and then went, oh, what's this crap, and then stopped watching, I don't want to know. But I know the number is very, very poor, because especially for a video like mine, personal reflections, a daily journal, long form, it's very rare that anybody would watch it all the way through. You have to be pretty dedicated to do that. Like, to watch an hour-long video, I mean, very few people are willing to do that. And I routinely post an hour. An hour-long video is normal for me. The other day I posted a 3-hour video about riding my bike on one day, because I just recorded the whole day. And when I put the video together, the video was 3 hours long, which is absolutely insane. But I try to make up for that by putting in chapter titles, all the different activities throughout the day, and somebody could, at least they can skip some parts that they think would be boring, and they can jump ahead to something that looks more interesting. But and I guess I do that partially because I'm a very dedicated watcher. Like podcasts too that I listen to, some of the podcasts I listen to are 4 hours long, and I listen to the whole thing beginning to end. I mean, I started listening on Monday, and then I keep going back to it. I don't listen to it all in one sitting, but I'm listening to it off and on for the whole week, and I'll listen to the entire 4-hour video. YouTube videos, people that I follow, if they post an hour-and-a-half video, I watch the entire video. That's my nature. And so I think there are some people out there who are similar to me, but not that many of them. But in terms of analytics, I don't want to know what the numbers are. The weird thing about the analytics there, when it comes to watch time, they give you like the average. And I don't like that, because the average is always horrifying, because it factors in everybody. So if you factor in everybody who clicked on your video, and that factors in everybody who clicked on for only 20 seconds or 1 minute, obviously the average is going to be skewed way down to the bottom. And as far as I can tell, the analytics don't tell you how many people actually watched all the way to the end. I've never been able to find that number. So when you look at that analytics number, the average view time, just say as an example, you put out a 30-minute video that you poured your heart and soul into, and the average viewing time was 1 minute and 15 seconds. I mean, come on. I mean, you'd be so depressed. But I think that's pretty normal for YouTube videos. Like, you might have 500 people who watch the whole 30-minute video, but then you might have 35,000 people who just watched 5 minutes of it, or 2 minutes, and then the average watch time is always really, really low, shockingly low. And I've often thought about this from the point of view of, say, someone who makes movies. Like, you get someone like a movie director, Spielberg or James Gunn. And then when people watch a movie, of course, they watch the whole movie. You go to the theater, you sit down, and most people don't walk out, they watch the whole movie. But can you imagine someone like Steven Spielberg making Jaws, and then the analytics come out, average watch time 5 minutes? It's like, what the heck? You only watched 5 minutes of my hour-and-a-half movie? It would be pretty weird, right? But that's normal life for YouTubers. You put a video out there, and most people don't hardly see any of it. And like, I'm so aware of all of my videos, like every second in it. By the time you're done editing a video and cleaning it up and getting everything right, you're so familiar with the content. Every moment and everything means so much to me. And every event that I recorded on video, I remember it so clearly. And then it's kind of weird to think that, to be honest, I could have posted a video and nobody has seen that moment in the video because it's buried in the middle of an hour-and-a-half long video, and it's possible that no one has ever seen that particular 40-second segment of that video that you thought was so interesting. You know, it's a weird life to make YouTube videos. Yeah, analytics. Yeah, I don't know much about them, but there are a lot of them there. Last question from someone with a very long YouTube handle. Editor Progressive Academic P6525 writes, I've been watching your videos for around 2 years now. I like Malaysian videos more. Are you planning to spend more time in Malaysia? Please go to remote countryside areas and make videos from there. My other question is about expenses. I have seen that you do not get many views on YouTube. Is it still sufficient to meet your travel expenses? If not, how do you meet your expenses then? So yes, I plan on spending more time in Malaysia, and as I talked about already, my original idea was to just land at Port Dickson, get on my bicycle, and just start riding for 90 days around Malaysia out in the remoter countryside. I was going to go, well, I still plan on doing it, but the idea was to go south from Port Dickson along the coast to Malacca, Johor Bahru, then come up along the east coast, heading north and then into the mountains, and basically go everywhere, a loop. And then when you're cycling, you're always going to more remote areas. You end up in smaller little towns everywhere, and then looping back, perhaps back through Penang. I could revisit, ride around the island on my bike. That would be cool. I've never done that. Taiping, Ipoh, and then back to KL again, so a loop. So that was my plan. Things got a little bit delayed because my passport renewal and on and on and on that I already talked about, but hopefully I can still complete as much of that bicycle tour as I had planned. So I do want to spend time in Malaysia this time. I feel, to be honest, like I owe it to the people of Malaysia because I've gotten a lot of support and a lot of encouragement here. And I've spent the vast majority of my time in Kuala Lumpur and Penang because I've just been using Kuala Lumpur as a base. And I mean, I could stay in KL for another year and still not run out of places to visit. I have a visitor here, a friend of mine from Australia, is in Kuala Lumpur right now, and he's actually staying in the Crossroads Hotel. He has a room here, same hotel. So we've gotten together a couple of times over the past few days. And I knew he was coming, and since he was here, I was trying to think of some place we could go to in KL together that I haven't been to, he hasn't been to, and it would be an interesting YouTube video. And I was really having trouble coming up with some place because I've spent so much time in KL that I've been to a lot of places. I've been to all of the main ones, I think, and I've made videos about all of those places. So like if you start making a list of all the attractions in Kuala Lumpur, everything from the Islamic Art Gallery to KLCC Park and Kampong Bahru and the Saloma Lake Bridge and the National Art Gallery and this gallery. I've been to all the museums, I've been to all the markets, I've been to the P. Ramlee Museum. I've been to a lot of museums that most people never even get to, and I've made videos about all of these places. So I couldn't come up with a place that fit those three requirements. I haven't been, he hasn't been, and it would make a good video. I couldn't come up with anything. So anyway, I'm just saying I've spent a lot of time in KL, and I've gotten a lot of support from Malaysians. So I feel like, you know, if I do leave this region permanently, I owe it to Malaysians to, before I go, to do that countryside trip. I have to go, and as I mentioned, I've already been to most of these places, if not all of them, on previous trips, but not as a YouTuber. So I should revisit Malacca, Johor Bahru, the East Coast, all these places. So I have plans, definite plans, to travel around Malaysia outside of KL. I don't think I'll make it out to the islands, though. They tend to be outside my budget to visit, like the beachy islands off the East Coast. And by the time I get out there, I think the monsoon will have hit, and I think all the boats get shut down. There's no point going out to a resort beach island when it's raining a lot and the high winds and things. You can still cycle, but going out to the islands wouldn't really be possible. But other than the offshore islands, I'm hoping to go to a lot of places. So his other question was about expenses, and the basic idea there is my entire life, what I've always done since I left Canada is work for a while, save as much money as I can, quit the job, go somewhere, either traveling or just living somewhere interesting until my money runs out, and then under the threat of starvation, trying to find a new job, saving as much money as I can, and then after 1 year, quitting that job and going back on the road again. And I've done that for the last, ever since 1991, basically. So I haven't depended on YouTube for an income up until this point. I had savings, so I was working the last time I was working in Taiwan, so I worked in Taiwan for a number of years, a regular office job. I was an English editor and writer at a publication. They made magazines and textbooks and audio, like multimedia material for teaching English that gets sold to all the schools and colleges in Taiwan. And I had a job with that company as an editor and writer and doing voice recording in the studio and all that kind of stuff. And then I don't have a very fancy lifestyle. I lived in a very basic almost like a studio apartment on a rooftop, and I don't have a car, and I don't go on expensive trips. So basically my entire salary went straight into the bank, and I saved as much as I could, and then I quit and I went off traveling. And when I started the YouTube channel, I'm living off savings, is what I'm saying. I have just been living off all my savings from my previous job. Things are changing now because the savings are gone, and I'm at that point where I have to go back to work, basically. If I could turn my YouTube channel into my job with an income sufficient to live this lifestyle, a low budget lifestyle, and keep doing what I'm doing, that would be my choice. But that's unlikely. But yeah, if I could do that, I would do it. That would be my number one choice at this point. I wouldn't have to make very much money from YouTube or from the Patreon or from support through Touch and Go and PayPal, things like that. I mean, if I could scrape together like $1,000 a month, I think that would be more than enough for me to just live this life forever. But even $1,000 a month, that's a lot of money these days to make on a platform like YouTube. At least I have not found the secret to doing that, put it that way. So no, I don't make enough money from YouTube and even like financial support from people through Patreon and other sources. It's made my life possible, to be honest. It's why I'm still able to do what I'm doing. Normally I would have needed to stop a long time ago and gone looking for a job, but because people supported me financially and with in-kind donations, you really can't ignore those, because as a YouTuber, you need a camera, you need a laptop, you need a smartphone, you need these things, and all of the gear that I'm using, other than like small accessories, everything has been a gift from a variety of subscribers to my YouTube channel. So the GoPro that I'm filming right now was a gift from a generous Planet Doug subscriber. The laptop that I'm using was a gift. I have an Insta360 X3 camera. That was also a gift. This smartphone that I'm using was a gift. So, you know, those are substantial, like in-kind donations to Planet Doug. And I could not have afforded to buy these things on my own. So I would have been back working already without the support of people. So that's the basic situation. I have been living on savings, and then I just go back to work when I run out of money. So, or back to a real job. The language gets a little bit confusing because I don't really make money from YouTube, and yet I have never worked so hard in my life. Like, making these YouTube videos is harder work than any job I've ever had. Just drains you emotionally, physically, time and effort. I put in far longer hours than I ever did at any other job in my life, and then I essentially don't get paid for it. So yeah, YouTube is a weird lifestyle, and yeah. So I think that's the answer to your questions. I will be traveling around Malaysia. Stay tuned for that. As many videos as I can post. And I work, save money, travel, go broke, go back to work. And that's kind of been my lifestyle up until this point. Well, that was the last question for the August Ask Me Anything. As usual, when I started answering these questions, my idea was to keep it short and succinct, but I didn't. I went off on tangents and I spoke for a long time to answer each question. I hope people don't mind. Maybe people prefer it. They can just listen to me ramble about various topics that may or may not have been related to the original question. Either way, I hope you enjoyed that. And again, this is part of my giving back to supporters on Patreon, on Touch and Go, in-kind donations through PayPal. You know, my month, it's not always a monthly Ask Me Anything video. Sometimes it can come out every month, but every 2 months. Like, even making a video like this, it's a full day and a half of work just to make one of these videos, to answer the questions, then edit and upload. It's a day and a half. So again, if you did it every month, it's almost 2 days out of every month just to make this one video. Sometimes it makes sense. Back in July, I was in Sumatra, and there was really no possibility of doing it just because of the internet uploading. I had such poor Wi-Fi, well, often no Wi-Fi, poor internet, that it was so much more difficult, time-consuming to record an AMA video and upload it. I just couldn't do it. So July, there was no AMA, but here we are in August. So yeah. So yeah, this is my way of saying thank you to everyone and creating a little bit of a Planet Doug community, answering all of your questions that you might have. So I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, as soon as I turn off this GoPro, I'm opening up my laptop and I'll be editing more videos. Got to get back to the back to the YouTube grind, as it were, which I enjoy very much. I don't want to make it sound like it's some sort of a horrible chore. I think I love it. I love making the videos, shooting them, editing them, learning new stuff all the time, and I enjoy the process. I think the only downside is a constant sense of not enough time. Like, you're sitting here in your hotel room editing for 14 hours all day, and you just have that voice in the back of your mind. Well, you're not supposed to be just sitting in your hotel room all day. You're supposed to be out there exploring Chow Kit and making videos about Malaysia, and and you're like, but the editing, the uploading, it takes time, and you've got that conflict. I'm supposed to be out there living, and yet there is a tremendous time commitment required to edit videos and upload them. But I enjoy it very much, so no complaints on that end. I just do wish it could be a little bit faster sometimes. The time, it just takes up so much time, surprisingly so, even for me. So that is it. Thank you for hanging out with me, and for August Ask Me Anything, and I will see you in the next Ask Me Anything video. See you then.